Hello, everyone. Parisa Bania here. Yet another episode of Badass Bytes. This is a grand experiment I have for streaming, whether it's directly on my Sixth Sense Strategy YouTube channel or it's on the Sixth Sense Strategy Facebook page or on LinkedIn as well. Today, I am talking about being too much. I'm talking about the experience of what it's like to be told that you're too much. But before I do, I want to tell you a little bit more about why this is called Badass Bites. And the reason why it's called Badass Bites is that I love people who I call modern badasses. These are people who go 80 miles an hour in a 45-mile-an-hour zone, and they don't always check to see if their people are strapped in for the ride, let alone interested in traveling to that destination, wherever that destination might be. I've written some traits about what I think typifies what I call modern badasses. So I'm sharing that link there for you, bit.ly/badass traits. If anyone would like to hop on over to that blog post to learn a little bit more about that. But what else is true about modern badasses besides going 80 miles an hour in a 45-mile-an-hour zone? These people are change agents. They are pattern interrupters. They love finding mismatches to create matches or to create new matches. They are bold. They are creative. They are out there. They're not making the donuts so much as that they are making new donut recipes. And what I think is particularly interesting about these people and why I love coaching them as much as I do is that it's not that they are fearless. They very much know that they are afraid of whatever it is that's audacious or seemingly impossible to them. That whatever it is that they're embarking on, it's not that they aren't afraid. It's just that they feel the fear and they move forward anyway. And so a lot of times these people who are bold, they are aggressive in their creativity, they want to advocate for what's new and different, they get very passionate about the opportunities that they see. They are often told that they are too much, that they are people who just are too much to handle in a particular kind of way, and it becomes distracting to them. Saying hello to some people. Yes, Almaz, they thank you. They buck trends. That's a really good description. And hi, Michael. Thank you so much for your hello. So yeah, Almaz, thank you so much for that. They buck trends. They feel like they can. It feels like for other people that they were about to break the good china or that they are about to break the crystal, and other people find it very disruptive for them. And so in my life, in my career, I have been often told that I am too much, that I am too bold, I'm too aggressive, I'm too colorful in my descriptions. I speak inside rooms with an outside voice, that I'm just too brash. And one of the examples of that I'll share with you, and I take full ownership and responsibility for this. One of the examples is that earlier in my corporate life, I was told that I was the hardest person that this person had ever had the misfortune to manage. What was literally said to me was, "You are the hardest person I've ever had to manage." And it was hurtful. It was also confusing to me, because what my mindset was at the time was, well, don't you want me to be coming up with new and different things? Don't you want me to be creative? If my mission in this job at this company is to deliver whatever business results you're looking for, then I'm always going to come up with new and different ways to come up with the business results that you're hungry for me. So it was very confusing. Like, on the one hand, here's what you're on the hook for. But on the other hand was, well, don't do it in the way that you're doing it. And so from where I was sitting, I was like, well, it sounds like you don't want me to be me. It sounds like uh, you have an issue with who I am as a person. And it was something that I internalized. It was something that was prodigiously upsetting to me. That's the best way to put it. And what I was doing at the time, and I fully take responsibility for this, was what I was doing at the time was that, let's say they gave me a job description, and the job description was in the shape of a square. What I was always saying and doing was, well, why does it have to be a square? Why can't it be a circle? Why can't it be a triangle? Why can't it be a rhombus? Why can't it be a rectangle? Why is it that you want to confine me to this square? And so, because I had this steady kind of confusion over and over and over again of, why are you limiting me to a square? Why can't I add things onto it to make it more acceptable, let's say, to the powers that be? Oh, I'm just reading a comment from a user. Those that say we're too much want to control people to stay in the box. Unwritten rules. Yeah, that's exactly right. That was exactly my experience, is that they gave me the job description of a square and they wanted me to stay within the confines of the square, whereas I was saying, well, what if we stretched? What if we grew? What if we made this somewhat different? And I know that I am not the only person that has had this experience. And I also know that in as much as my experience was painful to me, I now, with the benefit of hindsight being 2020, plus also having the pleasure, the experience of coaching badasses, where it is that badasses can course correct such that even if they're in a quote unquote traditional environment, they can still thrive, survive, participate, and have other people who don't necessarily buck trends welcome the fact that these badasses can and do buck trends frequently, because it's for the betterment of all of us and not necessarily because a badass is just trying to be contrary, as opposed to what's really going on with these badasses, that they have a goal in mind that they are trying to hit. And the more audacious the goal, the better. And so let me share with you a little bit some of the things that I learned and some of the things that I talked to my coaching clients about that seemed to be helpful. It's certainly helpful to me, and it has certainly been helpful to my coaching clients. One of the things is getting crystal clear on what your values are. So for me, for example, there are 5 that I point to all the time: freedom, truth, justice, creativity, and loyalty. And so what I have found, that whether personally, but within this context professionally, if the work I'm doing or the space I'm in doesn't align, if neither of them align with my values of freedom, truth, justice, creativity, and loyalty, it will likely be that I will be unhappy in that environment, and the people who are with me in that environment will likely be unhappy too. And so getting crystal clear on what your values are. And it's not necessarily something that, if I were to ask you it today, that you would be able to recite it outright. I mean, great if you can, but take some quiet time and just say, what's important to me, or what appears to be important to me? And let's say, yeah, how does that feel for me? So again, for me, freedom, truth, justice, creativity, and loyalty, and especially freedom and creativity. If they're not there for me, then it's hard for me to get excited about whatever it is I'm doing. So that's step number one, identifying the values that are the most important to you. And then step number two is, how are my values aligning with the environment that I'm in? So take a look around and say, do the people who are around me, or is this space that I'm in aligned with whatever my values are? Great. And then kind of the second part of that is asking yourself, is the work I'm doing currently aligning with my values? So I have decided that my best possible work, or how I show up the best, is working as an executive coach and advisor to badasses and 3D leaders. And 3D leaders are difficult, dismissive, and divisive. My values show up, or I'm serving my values when I work with these badasses and when I work with these 3D leaders. I am the happiest. I am the most creative. I am the most dynamic. I have the most organic ideas. I serve these people really powerfully. And I have a connection and an empathy and an understanding of them that perhaps other people may not have or may not want to have. So my environment, my office is my office. I get to design it however I like. So I have these organic looking trees behind me. I always have a lot of light. And the work I do, like I said, is I'm very crystal clear about who I like to work with, badasses and 3D leaders. And then also the alignment of values in terms of who your colleagues might be. Who's on your personal board of advisors? Or can you cultivate a personal board of advisors with people who don't necessarily have identical values as yours, but respect your values, or understand you within the context of your values, or have identical values as you, and they are your sounding board. They are your truth-telling device to share with you, hey, this seems to be in alignment, or hey, also this also doesn't seem to be in alignment. In addition to a personal board of advisors, you could certainly check to see if the people that you collaborate the most with, what are their values? Are they aligned with yours? And if it feels like the work with them is easy, it's likely because that their values are aligned with yours, or it's easier to connect with them because the values are complementary to yours. And it really doesn't matter what the work is. It really fundamentally comes down to the values. And when you ask yourself all these questions, what are my values? How does my work show up with this? How does my environment show up with this? My colleagues, adjust accordingly. If it feels like your values aren't being honored, whether it's because the people you collaborate with, your environment, the work that you're doing, where and how can you adjust? What conditions can you create to make it so that you feel most like yourself? And so you can serve whomever it is that you would like to serve most powerfully. Because ultimately, it's not that badasses are too much. It's not that I'm too much. It's not that you're too much. It's not that candidly anyone is too much. It's just that we have not placed ourselves in the environment where we shine the best. And this is the one of the lessons, if not the number one most important lessons that I learned in my corporate life, is that I was never too much. I just wasn't in the right environment. I wasn't doing the work that aligned with my values. I wasn't clear to myself, let alone anyone else, what my values were. And because I wasn't clear about those values, that's where I had so much tension with the people that I worked with and that I worked for. If I knew what was most important to me, then I was never going to be in the space where I felt like I was too disruptive, too much of a troublemaker, too loud, too bold, too brash, too disruptive, too divisive, too dismissive. I would have been just right as opposed to too much. So, if anyone has ever called you too much, I celebrate you. If anyone has ever made you feel like you were less than because you were too much, I celebrate you. If you've ever taken yourself out of environment because you were too much there but just right for somewhere else, I celebrate you. Remember, it's not that you're too much, it's being crystal clear about your values and aligning your work and your environment to align with your values so that you're always going to be just right. Just as a refresh, here is the link to the blog post that has the 14 traits that I've outlined for modern badass leaders. If there are any questions or if you'd like to learn a little bit more about my work, you could hop on over to my website. That's www.sixsensestrategy.com and sign up for my newsletter on a monthly basis. I send out a note with what I'm thinking about at that precise point in time. And I'd love for you to be able to join me there as well. And finally, if you'd like to have a conversation with me, please don't hesitate to reach out, Parisa at sixsensestrategy.com. And in the subject line, say 30-minute conversation, and I'll be happy to follow up with you. That's it for this episode of Badass Bytes. Thank you so much for your attention and care, and we'll see you soon. Bye.